Been a little while since we've met, and last time in clinical supervision, we talked about me sort of stepping up and starting to do some couples therapy, which I had very little experience with. I have had a couple refer to me, and it's just a few things that I wanted to run by you. As you know, I've worked significantly in the drug and alcohol and domestic violence field. I've done a little bit of couples therapy, but not a lot, and was really sort of looking forward to working with some couples around relationship issues and find myself back in the DV space, I think. I was a little bit at first. I was sort of trying to keep in mind that whole, don't have that unconscious bias, that confirmation bias around, if I side with her, if I'm looking for signs for DV. But this one particularly was so present that it couldn't really be ignored. So just to give you a little bit of background, the couple that was referred to me, Yvonne and Sebastian, know this is a confidential space, so I will use their name or I'll end up slipping it anyway. I don't like to meet with couples together to start with, particularly when the referral came from him and he was concerned about her mental health, and part of what he really wanted to talk about was her depression and getting her help for that, because he wanted another child and she was too depressed to have sex, and it just seemed very much kind of one-sided. So I decided to meet with them both on their own, and I'm glad I did. I did first meet with him because he was the one who initially did the referral, even though she had signed to approve it. And he didn't really disclose much, but I did get a bit of a vibe that, there was a bit of coercive control in there. It was mostly about, her and her not wanting to have sex because she was depressed and they decided they wanted another child together, and he wanted me to meet with her and him, but it felt like Moore was trying to collude with me to get me on his side to try to talk her into doing what he actually wanted. So that was kind of my first real sign that, maybe things aren't so great here. He talked about the relationship being pretty good. They'd been together for quite some time, since she was 15, in fact, and he's quite older than her. She's actually 28 and he's 35. So, as I said, together since she was 15. When we did talk about any sort of other issues within the relationship, not just around her, the only things he sort of say is, couples fight occasionally, but nothing really bad, nothing more than everyone else. We've had a few money issues with kids because, kids are expensive, and we did live on Social Security for quite a while because neither of us really worked. We both only went to year 10. And he sort of just really kind of tried to fob off any issues that they had. And I thought, this is not sounding very much like this is a genuine couples therapy thing. It's more felt to me like there was a lot of control and some potential DV there. He did open up a little bit about some drug and alcohol abuse that he had very much in the past, but again, it was very just touching on issues with him, mostly about her. So I did meet with her as well, and initially she seemed very reluctant to talk and reluctant to get into much about the relationship. Just kept saying, I don't want to have any more children. Didn't sort of want to go into why, other than starting off with money issues. But I think my experience working in DV for quite a while, I was able to make her feel comfortable and build up a good enough rapport for her to eventually open right up. She talked very much about them getting together when they were 15, and him being 13 years older was just a bit of a red flag straight away. I'm not too sure if they had an intimate relationship back then, but if they did, that's basically statutory rape, and there's no statutory limitations on that, and that was quite concerning and definitely prosecutable if that was the case. She talked about having quite a loving family, but he moved her away from her family to his family, much closer to his family, and then she cut ties with everybody, and sadly her parents have actually passed, so she doesn't really have anybody that she feels that she can turn to for support. Any friends that she did have in the past that she used to go out with and socialize with, she gave up because he would call her a slut when she went out and just derogatory stuff and made her really embarrassed. So she just ended up cutting those ties. She said on occasion he may not hit her, but he got so angry that he would break things around her, which, as we know, is physical abuse. The threats of physical abuse is definitely part of physical abuse as well. There are just so many different categories of violence there that I was able to identify. I did start to talk to her about it, did introduce the term domestic violence, which she'd heard of. We talked a lot about some of those categories, and she really started to open up about how scared she is of him, how she doesn't want to be with him anymore. She's tried to leave him several times, but he just crawls back and pleads for her to stay. And then she just starts to get really scared about, well, what's he going to do to me and the kids if I do leave? So she ends up staying. But she does not want to have another child with him. He keeps pushing for her to do that. She doesn't want to have an intimate relationship with him. I get the impression that he sometimes forces himself on her. And we did talk about, you can say no in marriage. You do have the right to say no. It is your body, and you have the right to that autonomy. She got quite upset at that point in time because her sense of self-worth is just very, very low. I did have a conversation with her about referring her onto some DV services, because at the moment she's deciding to stay. She feels safer to stay, and we really need to do some safety planning around that. And as we know, in that preparing to leave and first leaving is the most dangerous time within that relationship. So it's not safe to get her to pack her bags and leave right now anyway. Safest thing I can do for her is encourage her to get the support she needs from some sort of specialist DV workers. The children I am very concerned about. I have done a mandatory report. I guess my dilemma around that is, normally if I'm working with a client, I like to talk to them about making the report first, and I haven't with her. I do want to continue to meet with her one-on-one if I can, and be her therapist rather than couples therapy, but I'm not really sure whether I should or should not. I did do a bit of research around, do I meet with them once as a couple? I don't know that it's safe for her to attempt couples therapy. And in fact, I'm pretty sure it's not. He's only going to try to collude for me to be on his side to try to change her behavior. I feel as though if I don't play his game, so to speak, he's going to take it out on her and make her more unsafe. So I'm very, very concerned about that. I did research some narrative therapy that you can do, but I really think she's just too unsafe. So I was looking at some research on intervening with couples experiencing DV and a very systematic framework approach around that. And it really does reinforce that you do not do couples therapy with people experiencing DV. It is just too dangerous. I'm not too sure that he will without being held accountable, but really around that sort of systematic framework is that, engaging in men's behaviour change, particularly group, if he was to agree to it. But as I said, I haven't had that conversation with him about this being DV. Just really also very mindful that, when a man does engage in that kind of therapy to start with, it actually can increase her risk, and her safety can be put at risk. So she really does need some support around that. So we really need to be careful how we do it. So I guess my dilemmas are, approaching him about getting separate support. Do I continue working with her individually or just encourage her to get the support that she needs? Do I talk to her about the mandatory report that I did make? I felt like I had to. The children are very, very young. In fact, there's a male 7 and a female. She's only 6. So the kids are at great risk, and I really do fear for them. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are around that. I've built a good relationship up with her. She's not really told anyone about the DV before, so I'd like to stay working with her. but sort of how I go about referring him and getting that having that conversation around him getting the DV support he needs. And I'm really hoping in making that child protection report, there's an investigation done and there's some accountability held on him where he might go on to get that support he needs. Thank you.